Hi, Bridget. I'm so excited for our interview, and I can't wait to share your story with our mindful business community. Before we get started, can you tell me a little bit about you and what you do?
Hey Meredith, thank you so much for having me. My name is Bridget. As you said, I live in the Woodlands, Texas, been a resident of Texas for about 11 years now. Love it. I grew up in the North, so I love springtime. It's spring right now. It's my favorite time of year. I actually run a marketing firm. For the last 9 years, have owned and operated socially branded media. We're a marketing agency where we work with brands to bring them to life, to advertise and make sure everybody knows about them. So it's a little bit of what I do.
Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, marketing plays such a huge role in business. So, can you tell me a little bit more, like how you support businesses through marketing? That way, our audience can kind of reach out if they need any services.
Yeah, absolutely. So I started as a social media agency. We used to do all of the social media management, content creation, and we'll get into this a little bit later on, I'm sure. But I pivoted more now to more of a marketing consultant. I still have a lot of services that we provide just through either partnerships or other people on my team. But now I've pivoted to providing higher level marketing consultants. So I will come into a company, take a look at their whole marketing department, like if it needs to be built out, if it needs to be restructured, look at where we're spending money, where it needs to go, help them build an overall strategy, and then make sure that all of their cylinders are firing and their messaging and everything is being broadcast to their clients in the best possible way.
I love that. So, I heard you talking about pivoting a little bit.
Yeah.
So, let's kind of talk about that. What was the most challenge pivot you've had to make in your business, and how did you navigate it?
Yeah, I would say so. A little bit more background on the company, kind of what how I started. So I started with social media. I was quite a few years ago now, about 9 years ago. I was working with a fitness model team, and I was doing all of the social media. I was doing photo shoots and connecting photographers and models, and helping other fitness girls and guys build their brands, their personal brands. And finally, one of these models reached out to me. She's like, "Hey, will you help me run your social media? I really like how you present yourself, how you position your authority and everything." And I was like, "I don't do social media for other people. I do this, photo thing." And she's like, "I'll pay you." And I was like, "How much?" The hustler in me was like, "Okay, maybe." So I started doing her content, and she was probably one almost to this day one of my hardest, most difficult clients, and she was my first. But it was challenging because she was a personal brand, so I had to learn how to write like her. I had to come up with content ideas. I had to come up with shoot ideas, and so I got thrown into it right off the bat. But I loved it. So from there, she referred me to somebody else, and then somebody else referred me, and it became this side hustle that I was doing while I maintained a full-time job. And every Sunday night I was creating content, and I figured out little systems and what software, and subscribed to Canva and all of the things. And so I did that for quite a few years. I built a huge team, especially during COVID. I had account managers, graphic designers, video editors, like photographers and video teams that I worked with, and we were firing on all cylinders. And it got to the point where I started, I don't know, maybe we peaked at like 30 clients, which is a lot for content creation. I started losing the passion for it. And I think just the way social media has evolved, the expectations for social media have become so high, but it's constantly evolving. It's constantly changing, from the platforms changing to the algorithms to new things coming. Like TikTok wasn't a big thing when I started, right? So there's been so many changes in social media, but everyone wants those quick and easy wins. And, that's where like buying followers came in and buying likes and engagement. And that's not sustainable. And it's also not going to give you an ROI, right? But I started getting frustrated with the amount of expectations, and also for the price point that they were paying us. I'm like, bro, I can't give you the world. Like I can't like, yes, this person over here has way more engagement, but that's a personal brand. You're a business. We always focused on businesses. So like your chiropractor office, your lawyers, your nonprofits, like things like that are not necessarily the most entertaining, but I always tell them like, hey, social media is the yellow pages. You got to advertise. You got to be out there because top of mind is how it is. You can't worry about engagement. You are not going to compete with a hot model traveling the world. Like you're a white attorney in, Wisconsin. Like, so it's not the same, but expectations were so high, and I started getting really frustrated with just, people would approve their content. And then I'd be at dinner with my family on a Saturday night, and somebody would call me like, "Hey, this post went out." And I'm like, "You approved it." "Yeah, but now I don't want it." And it'd be like this whole emergency that I'd have to like get up from dinner, go on all 15 of their accounts and remove it. And it was just like, I started getting frustrated with the way people treated social media, as if it was like, an emergency. There are no emergencies in social media. No offense, but there aren't. And just like the expectations for the amount of effort people wanted to put in, the amount of dollars people wanted to pay. I was like, okay. It got to the point where like I woke up on Mondays and I hated creating content, which to do creative work, you have to be in a very happy, very good space to do, right? Like you can sit and stare at a computer all day, but creative is such a flow. And I would find myself just like stumped for clients that I could like whip out content in 10 minutes. I was like sitting there all day and not being able to come up with stuff. So I had to kind of like be like, okay, what is it that I enjoy? And I had to really kind of sit back. And then I realized I like social media pisses me off right now. And that's not a good place to have a business because I don't even want to sell my own services. So I kind of started letting clients just fade out. And of course, as it fades out, the money starts fading out too. So I'm like, okay, I got to come up with something. But along the way, I realized that I really enjoyed the consulting side of it. And when you've been doing this for so long, like I learned very quickly that I can have a kick-ass social media content campaign. But if your website sucks, your Google or sucks, like everything else is not firing on those cylinders, my stuff ain't going to do anything anyway. So there started to be more opportunities where clients would come to me and be like, hey, look, I can do your social media, but after looking at your overall brand, we need to do this, 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 and this, and this. And some of them started being like, well, hey, can you help me with that? And so I started helping other brands, like basically putting on the apron, going in the kitchen, cleaning the kitchen, getting rid of that chef, hiring this cook, and just making sure everything was firing on all cylinders so that I could run a successful social media campaign. And I realized like, hey, I kind of like this higher level, being able to have my hands in the whole piece of the marketing pie instead of just one sliver of it that I can only control. And also being blamed for the success of everything else when I only have control over this. So I started to pivot from social media manager into more of the consulting role. And it's still something that I've entered into, and we can get into this too, but it's been a mind, for lack of a better word, from mind fuck for me, because it's like I was super confident I could sell social media all day, but now selling a higher ticket price or a higher ticket service, there's like sometimes I'm like, well, can I do this? And even though I've already done it, I still have those moments where I'm just like, oh. So it's been a challenge, but it's been overall a really good pivot for me. So long answer, but
Yeah, no, I mean, Matt, you have so many good, like, I can ask you a million questions just from your
yeah.
But I love what you said. So why do you think, people have these high expectations with social media? Is it because, they think that, oh, if I go viral, my business is going to start flowing? Is that
Mhm.
like, what is that? Like, what? Because I mean, we've had videos like they go viral and we get zero ROI,
Yeah.
so yeah, I can totally relate to that.
Yeah, I really think the expectation has come from so many business coaches, and you and I might be in this space a little bit more than your average person, but you see these 20-year-olds come on, no offense to 20-year-olds, but you see them come on and be like, I make $20,000 a month and I don't do anything. Like I'm sitting at the beach. You see all of these people like, and maybe they are, who knows? But the expectation for social media being a source of income has been really put on this pedestal. Like you see all these young YouTubers, you see all these like Mr. Beasts who come up, and granted, totally different scenario, but that's kind of the precedent. So you see them, you see the Logan Pauls, you see these kids doing toy reviews. And so now there's become this precedent that, oh, you can make all this money on social media, but I need likes and views and engagement. When the truth is you just really need a strong brand, good content, and forget the number of followers people will engage naturally if your content's good. But it's just, everyone wants that quick fix and that easy resolution. And content takes a lot of work. I've only had one attorney that was willing to invest a lot of time into creating content, and people aren't willing to do that. Like they don't understand how much time goes into editing a 15-second reel. Like for one, we had to go shoot that. Then we have to go take it to the editors. Then we have to go back and tweak it. Then we got to add music to it. Then we got to come up with a witty caption, and it might get 100 views, but we put like hours into that. So it's like we want that instant gratification, and we think that we've been taught that likes and views equals ROI, and that's not necessarily the case. It's really going to be the quality of your content, your messaging, and being super clear on that, but not only just clear on it, but consistent over a long period of time.
Yeah. And I mean, even I was just thinking about this the other day. I'm like, because I'm guilty of that. I'll share a reel and I'll get like 200 views, like
Yeah.
under like 100 likes. And I'm like, oh my God, that's a flop. But then in reality, I'm like, wait a minute. If I change my mindset and I think 200, if I had 200 clients, that would make a huge difference to my business. Like,
Yeah.
why am I complaining over views? Like, that's 200 potential clients that I could be reaching out to.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, I totally agree. Unrealistic, expectations for social media. But I also love what you said, how you said that you pivoted, so you went from social media now to consulting and you question yourself because it's new.
Mhm.
So, I think we can all kind of relate to that,
Yeah.
the pivoting and who am I to do this? But I've known you long enough to know that you've got this.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, so I'm excited, to support everything that you do. So when, how did you know that it was time for you to pivot? Like you said, it was like that stress, that it just wasn't, the stress and the money wasn't, adding up, or was there something else that made you just like say, screw it, I'm completely changing and starting over?
Yeah, I think one too many. I can think back to a moment I was at dinner with my spouse, and we were in LA, cute little place, it's a nice little spot. And I just remember being like, I don't know if a client texted me and she's like, this needs to get taken down like immediately. I'm like, bro, you approved that. Like, why am I sitting here at dinner on a Friday night, supposed to be enjoying a glass of wine, and now I'm all of a sudden stressed out, and now you're mad about something that you already approved, and now I got to stop what I'm doing and take it off. But I think I just got to the point where people's expectations really started to bother me. And that's just one moment where I was like, I got to do something different. Like, I don't know what it is. I don't even know if it's marketing anymore, but I need to get out of this because this is not, it's not bringing me happiness. I'm not excited about it. And I think whenever it's time to pivot, you really kind of know, like, there's signs, right? You're something that brought you joy, something that you got excited to get out of bed for, it no longer does that for you. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. I think even as individuals, we're constantly evolving. I got to evolve and grow and learn how to operate a business, learn how to grow. I learned so much starting a social media agency, managing people. Like, there's so many valuable things that I learned along the way. And I think I just got to the point where I was like, okay, I'm ready for the next challenge. And the things that I was doing as a social media manager just didn't, they just didn't challenge me in the way I wanted to be challenged anymore. Right. It was kind of like people freaking out over, nuts and bolts, when it was like, no, let's look at the overall picture. Or I just started to be like, people are not even like respecting my wisdom, so to speak, where it's just like, you hired me, let me do my job. And if you're not going to let me do my job, like, go do it yourself then. So I think it was just really paying attention to how I felt. And I know maybe you're not, I don't know, you're not supposed to run businesses necessarily off of feelings, but as an entrepreneur, you are invested so much, and it's such a personal journey. Even though it's a business, it's still a very personal journey. You got to pay your bills, you got to buy your groceries, you got kids to take care of. So there's still a very personal piece of that. And if you're not happy, like, I think big part of being an entrepreneur is to have that happiness that gives you the time, flexibility, freedom, and the financial freedom to be like, I can earn as much or as little as I want to. So when it doesn't light you up anymore, I think you kind of know it in your soul. Like, there's not only are there signs, but you will just feel it. Like, I just felt restless, and just in a place where, like, I wasn't at peace. And I was like, why am I not at peace? And then I just started kind of asking those questions, like, what would I want to do instead? What would make me happy? Like, how do I pivot? What do I pivot to? So it was just more of an unsettled feeling for me. And I can, of course, remember those specific times at dinner and just being like, what the heck? Like, this is stupid. Like, it's social media, it's not an emergency. There wasn't even a typo. Like, we didn't do anything wrong. So I just got to the point where it's like, I need to start finding what that next level is for me.
I love that. And I feel like that's not spoken enough in entrepreneurship, right? It's like, from like you said, from every motivational speaker, it's like, okay, if you're going through hardship, that's normal, like keep pushing through. But I like that regardless if it's hard or not, you have to be in it emotionally
Yeah.
to some extent. Like it has to create
Mhm.
that passion for you.
Yeah.
And so that's a good point for, all the women that are listening to us, that you have to be in it. You have to know yourself, take a step back, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes taking a step back feels like a failure. I don't know if you've experienced that,
Mhm.
or like, was that part of,
Yeah.
like,
I will also add to that too. And I'm not saying like if you wake up and you're unhappy, like you quit and you start something else. Like, I put in 9 years to this. So I definitely had hard times. I definitely had my struggles. I had, clients that got mad. Like, I dealt with all sorts of different things. And so it's not like, oh, this is hard, I don't want to do this anymore, because, I'm talking beyond that aspect of it, where it's hard. Like, it's hard no matter how much you love it, right? But when you have a passion for it and you do love it, then it makes the hard not feel so hard, if that makes sense. I know it makes sense to you. What was your question? I forgot.
no, yeah, no, I mean, so did you, in that process of pivoting, did you feel like a failure, or like, and,
Oh,
and if you did, how did you get yourself like back to like, okay,
yeah. Yeah. So I don't know if failure would be the right word. Because to me, it's you only fail if you quit. And I never, and
Mhm.
maybe that's not even the right thing to say too. Failure is kind of just, it's subject to opinion, I guess. But I definitely felt like maybe I should just get a job. Like maybe I should just like let go of the agency and just get a job where I don't have the pressure anymore and I can just kind of sit there for a little bit and think about what I want to do next. Um, I definitely went through all of it. Like, am I capable of pivoting? Like, what will people think? Am I smart enough? There's other people who've done this before me. Like, it's when I say mind fuck, it's like every possible scenario comes through. You're like, maybe I shouldn't do this. And then the first time I'm on a call and I'm like, yeah, I'm a fractional CMO. I'm like, wow, that feels so stupid, right? I'm like, but I also remember back in the day when I wanted to be a fitness model, I remember making my first Facebook page and I said Bridget Therese fitness model and I got like 100 likes in an hour and I was like, oh my God. I'm like, you can't wait for somebody to come and anoint you as now, Bridget, you are a fractional CMO. Congratulations, unless you go to college, right? Which, whatever, there's still in the corporate world, maybe that happens. In an entrepreneur world, shoot, you put the crown on and you're like, this is what I'm doing, this is where I'm going. I've done all the work to get here, but nobody comes and appoints you that. You just kind of have to decide, hey, this is what I'm doing. I believe in it. I have the knowledge to do it. I have the confidence, or I'll borrow somebody else's that believes in me. Like I've had to borrow people's confidence in me so many times where they're like, no, Bridget, you got this. You've already been doing this. Like, why are you freaking out about it? So again, have a network of people that believe in you and that support you. And that really helps to make those pivots. And when you're doubting yourself, it really helps to, I say, borrow people's confidence.
Yeah, that's huge. So that, yeah, I mean, I love that about, oh my gosh, I can't
Borrow.
even speak. Yeah, I mean, because you need a level of confidence to keep going when you're pivot. And I love that you said it's not a failure. And but setbacks sometimes in our head, we're like, oh, I'm taking a
Mhm.
setback. That's a failure. I
Yeah.
love how you reworded that.
Reframed it. Yeah.
So as far as branding, let's say, because you use your social media, you brand it yourself. How did you did you make that switch right away with social media, with rebranding, or how did you make those
The
changes so
fractional
that people
CMO.
know? Yeah.
Yeah. Even that was like a whole thing. I spent a lot of time on it too because it did feel a little bit of imposter syndrome, like to just give myself this new title, and I kind of played around with it a little bit. I had a business coach that I was talking to. I'm like, can I do this? Like, is this okay for me to like pivot to this? And basically it was a decision. So I'm like, you know what? I've had my social media agency for a long time. Like, it is time for a refresh. So I kind of rolled it all out at the same time. I revised my logo. I went and did a photo shoot where I was like more of a CEO kind of a feel. I did shot new content, and then I'm just like, all right, here we go. Here's a new website. I've updated my LinkedIn. You kind of just roll it out and people accept it. It's a perfect example is I started getting spammed by LinkedIn messages for all these CEO, CFO, C-suite things. So you change your title, people take you for your word at it, right? Um, but I think the hardest thing about rebranding is just the internal making sure that you feel aligned with it. Um, and it is kind of like, hey, saying I'm a fitness model, hey, I'm a fractional CMO. It was kind of the same thing, except that, there's a lot of thought and intent and put behind it. But you just kind of, I think that's one of the powerful tools about social media. You can kind of reinvent yourself. And as long as you're not doing it like every 6 months or every 3 months, like, oh, no, I'm going to do this. Oh, no, I'm going to do that. You got to take people along with you on the journey. And I had to do posts about, hey, this is why I don't do social media anymore. Hey, this is why somebody reached out to me, be like, hey, I don't do that, but I'm happy to refer you. This is what I'm doing now. So you kind of have to retrain people to understand what you do. You got to talk about it because people get confused on what are you doing now? Like, so that's kind of how the rebrand works. You make a decision and then you start building all of it and then launch it. It doesn't have to be perfect, but like make sure you're organized, you have everything in order, and then you put it out to the universe and then things happen.
Yeah, I mean, looking through my end on social media, when you made that transition, it was like so smooth that it wasn't even questionable. Like, oh, like
Okay.
wait, she's now starting something new. I think, when you work hard and when you invest so much time into, like you said, people believe in you and then they follow
Yeah.
you wherever you go. So
Yeah.
I
Thank you
I
for that. And
absolutely love that.
I think I've brought people along on the journey, whether intentional or unintentionally, just from the beginning of my business and just kind of like, I mean, I was going down through Dropbox looking for something like years ago, and I was like, dang, I did a lot of stuff to get to where I'm at. And sometimes you kind of forget about the journey. And so I think, thank you for saying that it was a smooth transition, but I've always done my best, and I don't even think I've understood the capacity of it all the time. To of bringing people along, it just feels very natural for me to kind of share what I'm doing or share the experiences I'm going through, in a professional, like, I'm still keeping my personal privacy thing away, but um, where was I going with that? I think it's just kind of, it was not natural for me to bring people along on my journey. So I'm glad it was kind of a smooth transition. It wasn't like I went from
Yeah.
like marketing to like, hey, now I'm a hippie in, China, like come be along with me. So granted, that would be pretty cool too, but yeah, I think it's just all about bringing people along with it. People like to know kind of what's going through it. And like my whole journey hasn't been peachy and perfect. And I think I've shared snippets about that along the way. Like, hey, there's one time I posted, I'm like, holy shit, today was a day I'm sending chocolates to the DMV in Montana. My kids threatening to poop in the car. Like it was just one of those days where it's just like, like it was not a peachy day. And I might look good doing it, but holy shit, I'm like getting home. I'm like, oh my God, why am I even an entrepreneur right now? Like definitely have those days.
Yeah, I love that because so I'm actually the opposite. I love that you say you're transparent and that that's been what's kind of helped you move forward. I have always had this fear of like, if I say too much, then maybe people are going to be like, oh, she did, she's felt at this or she can't figure it out. Like, why? But I love that being transparent and just being honest and like sharing that because as you're talking and telling me that experience, I'm like, I can relate to that. Okay, I'm not the only one. Good.
Yeah.
Like,
I think actually sharing snippets, of course, with what you're comfortable with. There's the people that overshare and you're just like, oh my God, not again, right?
yeah.
But they're sharing what you're comfortable with, it does make you more human and it does make you more relatable. Because I don't want people to look at my life and be like, oh, she's got it all together. She's all she does is travel. Like somebody's probably paying for like, people can assume whatever they want and people will assume whatever they want. There's always going to be a hater somewhere in your corner, which great, let them hate, let them do their thing. But there's also going to be the people that are like, oh my God, I can relate to that. And I think when you do show some level of transparency and be like, look, my life is not perfect, I'm not going to share everything I'm going through right now, but I definitely have those days where I'm like, there was so many days where I'm like, what am I even doing with my life right now? I've said that more than 100 times probably in the last year and a half. Like, what am I even doing with my life right now? So I think it's kind of the opposite. Like, I think when you show a little bit of vulnerability, people trust you more and they're like, oh, okay, I get that. Because everybody's going through something, everybody's gone through that or been in that stage. So I think when you share that, it actually, instead of people thinking you fail, I think they're like, it makes you respect them more in a way.
Yeah. Well, it's going to blow your mind. I read recently that the number one question that entrepreneurs ask themselves is, what am I doing?
Really?
Yeah.
Oh,
So
I'm
you're
such
not
an
alone. Like
entrepreneur then. Oh my God.
that's a number, like that's
That
a
is
number one
funny.
question I ask myself. I'm like, what am I doing? What can I be doing better? So you're
Yeah.
not alone on that. So
Oh my gosh. Thank you for that.
typically you're not alone.
Oh, there's some days I'm just like, what am I even doing?
Yeah,
Lots of
yeah.
days. Too.
Okay, so
Oh,
see, these conversations are so important
exactly.
because I think that's knowing that you're not alone in something is that
Yeah.
fuel that keeps you
Right.
going.
Right. And that's, I think, what the problem is with highlight reels. Like, if it can be so isolating to just sit there and watch everybody's highlight reels, but when somebody is actually honest and shares, hey, yeah, I got a lot of great things going on, which I have a lot of great things going on in my life too. But like, there's definitely been moments of struggle over the past year and a half or so. And I've shared little bits of it, but when you share your highlights, but you also mix it in like, hey, even though I've had an amazing, a lot of really cool experiences, I still have these things going on. I think it just makes it a lot more humanizing and relatable. And it is helpful to have those conversations.
Yeah. What boundaries did you learn or like going back to like your first business and everything you learned through those 9 years, what boundaries do you wish you would have had? And now are you carrying with your new business to make sure that
Yeah.
you're not over or burning yourself out with
Yeah.
so much work
Yeah.
and all these, tasks.
That's such a good question. And I feel like that's something I'm actually more conscious of now. Because so when you're first starting out, you're desperate to please people, you're desperate for business. You're like, oh my God, it's 10 p.m., but they texted me, I need to go do this right now. I think I've learned, well, for one, most things in business are not an emergency unless it's like actual an emergency. You've like call 911. So I think I've learned to separate urgency and be like, I don't have to call them back right now. I can do that on my own time. Like I'm in the middle of something right now. I can call them back instead of like stopping what I'm doing and taking the phone call or stopping what I'm doing and texting them or stopping what I'm doing and grabbing that, or even just responding late into the evening. Or if I'm at dinner, I'm like, that can wait. So I've really learned now that I'm past the desperation point of in the learning curve of that, I guess, right? Because you train people, like if you respond at 10 p.m. on a Saturday night, they're guess what? They're going to expect you to respond every Saturday night at 10 p.m. or 11 p.m. or who knows. So I think I've learned to kind of build more boundaries. And even this weekend, it was so funny. We were in Mexico and my brothers were down there, and my brothers bringing on this new individual, and I do a bunch of work for my brothers. He's got multiple companies, and I do way too much work for him. But anyways, I love it, so it's fine. But so we're together, and so whenever we're together, he's like, "Bridget, can you do this? Bridget, can you do that?" And this guy was like trying to get all these contracts and all this stuff lined up, and we're literally in Mexico on a family trip. And we're driving through, like I was driving through downtown Leon, Mexico, which is like chaotic because it was in the through the markets. And the guy on my brother's got this guy on speakerphone. And he's like, but let's do a call right now with the drivers. And I finally like got to my breaking point. I'm like, it is Saturday at noon. We are not doing a call right now. That can wait till Monday. I'm like, we are not working anymore. Like we've been on the phone for 24 hours straight. The exaggeration there, but it was like constantly, he was just constantly calling with things to do. And I'm like, look, we're on a family trip that's been planned. We're in Mexico. I can't even access everything because my VPN is not in the US. I'm like, this can wait till Monday. And I had to kind of just shut it down, which normally I would have probably stopped what I'm doing, gone and done it. But I'm like, I'm starting to recognize like, no, like we work hard so we can play hard, and we need to build those boundaries around it. So I think in my new line, and also maybe just age and maturity, whatever you want to call it, I'm starting to calculate, okay, that's not an emergency. This doesn't need to be responded, and building those boundaries now, because like time is all we have. Like at the end of the day, it's just like, how was my time spent? And I don't want it to be spent, serving everybody else. And I get to the end of the day, I'm just exhausted. So I just had lunch with a friend, and we were talking about this very thing. It was like, he's worked hard his whole entire life, and now he wants to enjoy it. And like, that's what it's about. Like he's not like throwing out his business, but like, how do you, and you work so hard so you can enjoy it. And so having those boundaries in place, protect that.
I love that. I really do. Because like you said, when you're starting off, you you're so afraid like if you say no that they're
Mhm.
going to turn away. And actually that I personally have gone through that. So
Yeah.
we spoke about this earlier, but I was in a deal with a venue, and I didn't want to say no, but I knew at some point that they were kind of, because I'm like, if I say no, or I question something,
Yeah.
they're going to cancel the deal. And so I was kind of like just being patient, hoping that they were going to
Mhm.
do the right thing on their end. And then they come back with this crazy number. And then I'm like, well, now you're just being dishonest. So then I
Yeah.
question it. And they had the audacity to say, well, because you question it, now we're going to double it. And I said, you know what? Thank you for being honest, but I don't do business with, people who are not
Yeah.
transparent.
Yeah.
So I'm walking away. So
Yeah.
it's okay to walk away from things that
Yeah.
are not aligning, right?
Absolutely. I think that's like, along with the boundaries, that's the next biggest thing, is like learning when to let go of clients, and learning when to be like, hey, I started a company so I could pick and choose who I wanted to work with. And if this isn't for like exactly how, but if you're not fun and you're not cool, like I don't have to work with you. And if you're going to tell me how to run my business, or you're going to tell me how to do my job, then you're not for me. And that's okay. There, somebody else will be a better fit. And it's okay to not have, you're not for everybody, and that's okay. And that's the thing. I think you mature in business, you realize that as well. Like I can say no to clients, and it leaves room for somebody who is a better fit for me.
Yeah, that's huge. Learning
Mhm.
when it's not for you, that's okay. And it's
Yeah.
not taking it personal, but just having those
Right.
boundaries, super
Yeah.
important. So I know you've been an entrepreneur for a lot, and then you're also a mom. So tell me about the sacrifice that you've had to make as you've grown your business and
Yeah.
pivoted, like, because you make it look easy. I'm over here looking at your social media. I'm like, my gosh, like she can do it all. Like, you're
Yeah.
amazing.
Well, it's so funny. When I found out I was pregnant with my last baby Avia, my business was like the most successful. I was traveling, and I was living like this free spirited life, doing whatever I wanted. I was truly one of those girls who like traveled on Instagram and made all the money, and had, this little peachy life, and then hello curveball. Um, so that was a super big challenge. Like, okay, here we go. This is a whole new experience. And granted, I have a 15-year-old son, and she's 3. So I've already been a mom, but I did not have the same experience raising my son as I did with my daughter, Avia. And when I raised my son when he was little, I worked a corporate job. My his dad worked from home, so he kind of got that stay-at-home role where I was the one outside working. So very different experience. So this one, I was like, okay, I kind of have the opportunity to really do this thing, right? And also, I will say her obvious dad is an amazing father and super supportive and helpful. So I do have support from him that makes co-parenting delightful. So I'm as even, but I carry the schedule of getting her to school, picking her up from school, sick days, because I'm the one who's at home, right? So I'm the one who it falls on. So I did nannies for a little bit because I soon realized that yeah, I would literally would stop Zoom calls and be like, I gotta change a poopy diaper. I gotta grab, she's crying. I don't know what happened. Let me go see what she's still okay. So I kept her home probably until she was 2. And granted, I brought her to meetings, I brought her to as many things as I could. Unless we were doing a video shoot, I would get a babysitter, have somebody watch her. Get a guy. I had like a part-time nanny that would help me. So I found ways to do it, but a lot of times I would just bring her with. I remember doing my first presentation. I think she was like 3 weeks old or something like that. And I just brought her with. So I guess with the way I've always parented, it was I just bring my kids along with me. And even when I had my son and I was working with one of my clients, she was a former Miss USA, we were around the pageant scene a lot. And I'm like, we are going to a TV set, and I was like, yeah, I'm going to bring him with me because I want him to experience some of the things I'm seeing. And I've like taught him how to shake hands with like Miss America or Miss USA and just be around a whole bunch of beautiful women and be confident. And actually, funny story, I remember very, very early on, I was starting out in this lady, it was actually, where Stake 48 is, very, very affluent, very expensive area part of town. And one of my clients had, she was in this salon and they were having an open house, and she's like, I need you to come and do video. I was like, crap, I don't have a babysitter. I was like, my time with my son, and it was after work. So I was getting off work and I had to go do a video shoot or shoot content at this open house where all these people were invited. And so I was like, I'm not going to ask permission to bring my kid. I have to. So I dressed him up. I put a bow tie on him. I put a little suit jacket on him and, brought him to the event. And because I'd brought him to so many different things before, I'm like, Christian, you need to hang out here and just be cool while I go do this. And I remember shooting and I looked to see where he was, and he had a glass of juice in a champagne cup somebody gave him. And he's like shooting the bowl with like people out on the patio. But like, I was like, perfect. So I've just found ways to incorporate my kids instead of eliminate them. Like, and also I will say COVID helped a lot with that. Like people just became way more understanding of parenting, Zoom calls, kids in the background. Like it wasn't so taboo to be like, hey, I actually have kids and they're human and they're gonna like, you know, throw shit across the screen while I'm doing my calls. Like it just became a lot more normal and understanding. And that actually, she was a COVID baby. So that helped a lot in that regard. But I will say did get to the point where I was like, in my business, I felt like it was suffering because I was like, wasn't giving my daughter full attention. I wasn't giving my business full attention. And I felt like I was half-assing everything. So I did eventually put her into school so we could have more of a structure and routine. But then what I did was I could give my business full attention. And then when I picked her up, I was already done working. So I got to play with her and I got to be present with her. And now she talks and she's a feisty little 3-year-old. So if she wants to play and I have my phone, she's like, Mom, no phones. We're playing dinosaurs. I'm like, understood. And she like nothing like a kid to bring you back to reality and be like, you know what, these times are going to be so limited. So yeah, I can scroll later. I can respond to that later. And just, I've learned to like, when I'm working, I'm working. And when I'm playing with my kids or after work, I'm with my kids. And, some days are glorious and some days are like, what in the actual going
Yeah.
on? Have kids, they said. It'll be fun. We'll see.
Yeah. No, but I love that because I think when we think about entrepreneurship and success, we just think that it's like a scale that just goes up.
Oh
But
my gosh.
really, it's like a roller coaster.
Absolutely.
And, some days you're going to I know some days I can work from 9 a.m. to 2 a.m. and I'm like, I'm
Yeah.
killing it. But then the
Right.
following week, I can only put in like 30 minutes
Yeah.
because, I burned myself out. So I love
Yeah.
what you're saying about finding balance, like knowing, like handling a situation one at a time. And then like when you're with your kids, you're present and
Yeah.
setting that boundary is super important. But yeah, no, you're killing it. And I just, I don't have kids yet, but when I look at women like you who are entrepreneurs and have kids and everything, I'm just inspired. So
It's a
really,
challenge, but I think it kind of like a business. And actually there's one guy I do follow on Instagram. And he will even say, I am this successful over here because I don't have kids. He's like, and I appreciate that he acknowledges that. He can be like, I can post 10 times a day because I don't have kids. And I respect that he says that, because it's setting the precedence of like, I understand that you guys have a lot more going on. And then to comment on your roller coaster, like there's days that are roller coasters, right? Like you get it off one phone call, everything's amazing. You get on the next phone call, you're like, oh my God. But I think that's what, like if we were always riding high, there wouldn't be no appreciation for it, right? So I think as much as it's like pains us some days to be on those lows, um, just to have is it the inconsistency of the highs and the lows, I guess, of the roller coaster of it, really gives you a sense of appreciation. And like I think you also learn how to get through the lows quicker. Like you don't stay down as long when you get used to, when you recognize it for what it is.
Yeah. One of the things that I've recently, I mean, I just read a lot these days, but I've realized that on those low days, I used to be super hard on myself. Like, why
Mhm.
can't I,
Yeah,
I gave it all my all last week. Why am I struggling
yeah,
this week? Is this normal? Why? And then instead of like being harsh on myself, I started like, okay, for whatever reason, I'm not giving it my all today. What is the message? What is like,
mm,
if I can just listen, what am I hearing? Like, what is
yeah,
this, season trying to teach me, trying to tell me, and just listening. And it's so hard to, because sometimes when I'm like, okay, I'm going to take the day, listen to on those days when I actually am kind to myself, I find a lot of clarity. I'm like, okay,
yeah,
maybe I need to pivot. I need to do this. This is not working. So I love that you say that, like I love that you're 100% about pivoting and how important that is as an entrepreneur and the
yeah.
journey. So what other lessons have you learned, being an entrepreneur? Like what two tips would you give, women right now in this season? Like I know the conversation we had earlier that this timing just kind of feels off. I don't know
Yeah.
if if you're listening, if you can relate to that. But even for me, like I feel like it's been a kind of like a tough season.
Yeah.
So how have you navigated? What's your tips? I know that's a lot.
No, it is I think it has just kind of been a weird season overall for a lot of people. And some people are going to ebb and some people are going to flow, like, and I think that's also why you can't compare your journey to other people, as you kind of have to put those blinders on and be in your lane. Um for me, it has been a challenging season. I think also too, just pivoting and readjusting and like also being okay with, it's almost like starting over, except with a whole lot more experience, but being okay with that. Um, that's, I think it just kind of goes with it, right? It goes with entrepreneurship. But how I get through it is, just kind of how we were saying, is like allowing myself to have grace on those days where I'm not like firing on all cylinders and like super creative and super productive. Like I love a productive day. I'm like, oh yeah, this is great. I'm like gonna go celebrate on the patio after this. Like those days are great. And then there's days where you get to the end and you're like, oh my God, I want donuts and TV for the next 3 days. Like
Yeah.
those days happen too. And I think it's just being okay, like you said, with the ebb and flow, the roller coaster ride of it, and knowing that not every day is going to be firing, not every day is going to be perfect. And we got to almost put those blinders on and be like, this is where I'm at today. I'm like, I need a nap right now, or I need to step away. I need to not read a business book and not do this. I actually had to buy like light reading just to like help me to disconnect a little bit and not always be in my head about, like, I think sometimes as an entrepreneur, it's hard to just shut it off. And to be okay with shutting it off. Like, okay, I'm going to go to dinner, or I'm going to go have fun, or I'm going to go on this trip and I'm not going to bring my computer, and just learning how to ride the roller coaster and be okay with the ups and be okay with the downs. So I think learning that part is the number one tip. And then the second part that um helps me get through hard times is I keep a gratitude journal. So for the last, gosh, I don't know, probably my first experience going through hard times in my very early 30s, I started doing this, where I was going through a really tough time and I was like, I don't even know where I got this idea from, but somebody told me it. And I started writing down 3 things every single day that I was grateful for. And I don't know how many years I've done that now, but every single day, and I may go back and catch up on a couple days, but every single day for the last few years, I find 3 things from that day that I was grateful for. And, on a really shitty day, like sometimes that's hard to do, but I'm like, hey, today I'm grateful for the pillow I cried into, or hey, I'm grateful that I got to stay home because I had that option versus going to my office or trying to work today. And like, I'm grateful today that I get to be home with my sick kid, even though that's super challenging right now in my business. So I had to put all that on the side, but like finding things that you're grateful for, I think has also helped me to stay happy and stay positive, even when these times are difficult or things are not booming or business isn't like flooding in the door. Like there's still so much to be grateful for, and happiness is an inside job. So I can be happy with 3 clients. I can be happy with 30 clients. I can be happy on a rough day, or I can be happy on a great day. So gratitude for me has been a practice that I think has been really helpful in keeping me at peace and keeping me just gliding through and moving through the difficult and the good times all at the same time. So gratitude and ride the roller coaster. Those are my
I
two.
love that. Yeah. Yeah. Because a lot of entrepreneurs, so I've been an entrepreneur, I want to say for 5 years now. And I am now just learning this, what you're saying about it's an inner work,
Yeah.
because I feel like I poured in to like the strategies, the marketing, the
Right.
what's the next thing, keep moving, and you
Mhm.
kind of let yourself go to some extent.
Right.
You're in the back and you're just like, who cares? Like let's just keep going. But checking in on yourself and that inner work is super important. I love
Mhm.
that. Okay, so now as far as like through these hard times through marketing, what two strategies would you like have you developed or are you doing that's kind of like working for your business?
Yeah, great question. Two things that I've done. One, I think is just being consistent on the messaging and being very clear about even if it feels like it's not sticking. So even with this pivot, though, completely different thing I'm selling, right? I'm selling consulting and services that might not be as tangible as social media and content creation, right? So being very clear on that, but then also what I've done is I've made more partnerships. So I partnered with actually another fractional CMO so that somebody who's been doing it for a lot longer, it's kind of again borrowing that confidence, but also working with somebody who has that expertise and dividing and conquering. So that's been one of the things like, okay, sure, I'm not going to take the full revenue, but I'm also not going to take the full burden of responsibility. And then I have two sharp minds working on it. So not being afraid to like partner, like normally somebody would see him and be like, oh, competition, don't talk to him. But I'm like, hey, let's collaborate, let's work together. So seeing things as an opportunity to collaborate and building partnerships with other people, again, with all along the lines of networking, like who can I help and how can they help me? But finding those partnerships, has been a great addition to this pivot that I've done from, providing social media services to consulting. Like, let's work together. You already got a lot of resources. I have resources, and let's pull that together and build something even better than either of us could build on our own. So, really having that consistency, not being afraid to collaborate, and finding those partnerships that help move the needle forward, even, instead of carrying everything by yourself.
I love that. And that competition thing is so real because I think for a long time you think scarcity, like okay, seasons are
Mhm.
kind of rough right now, scarcity, and you're thinking pretty much. I think it's called like that mindset
Yeah.
scarcity.
Scarcity,
There you go.
scarcity mindset. Mhm.
Thank you. But yeah, so when you're in that seeing opportunity and collaboration and working with others is super important. Even for, like you said, because when you collaborate with someone, you're tapping into their network and you're
Mhm.
helping each other, which is a win-win. Absolutely love that.
Yeah.
And I think our last question for the day would be, we already talked about your lessons that you learn, your boundaries. What's next? Like, I know with your new, what are you looking forward with your new business? And for
Mhm.
anyone listening that wants to learn more and wants to use those services, how can they reach you? Like a lot of us don't know how to get started or what tools we can use to grow our business. So,
Yeah.
what tools and just let us know everything.
Sure. What's next? I think, I just, again, we just want to focus on having like a balanced lifestyle. I love to travel. I'm split between Wisconsin and, Texas, and I want to spend more time in Wisconsin. So just learning like what kind of clients and what kind of work do I want to put into place that I can have this lifestyle where I can be in multiple different places or travel or just work from wherever. So that's one thing is just kind of finding that sweet spot for me. Again, that's for what works for me and for my lifestyle and how I do things right now. Um I'm trying to remember the half part of how to reach me. So as far as like who I can help and how that works, I like to work with established businesses, so medium to up like small but like established small businesses to medium size, where maybe they need to build out a marketing department, or to the point where they've got to start and, allocating a marketing budget to reach more clients, or to, help build out revenue. But really, it's anything from like leadership. If you need a director of marketing to come in, either interim or, for a long period of time, you can kind of think of me as your marketing director without the whole bill of a salary of a marketing director. I can come in and just help you build out a team, help you build out a strategy, help you put stuff in place as far as marketing. I kind of look at it as a holistic thing. So make sure every single piece of your marketing is firing all cylinders, it's all working together, and I can help you build that out. So build that out, put it in place, and then execute it. So whether I'm executing it or my team is, or I'm teaching your team how to execute it. But really, it's just kind of like, if there's a hole in your marketing space, you have the money to spend on getting that marketing and branding and messaging clear. That's how I can help. And they can find me at sociallybrandedmedia.com. I got a lot of information on my website there, but the best way is to probably just slide into my DMs, shoot me a message, and I'm happy to have a conversation with you and see if it's a good fit and how we can help you.
I love that. Yeah, no, that's so important. And okay, I know I said that was the last question, but for businesses that are not there quite yet, who are still kind of building up, how can they get to that? Or like, what tips can you give them to kind of reach to that level where they could be, a future client for you?
Sure. Great question. I think the sooner you can start setting aside a budget for marketing and investing in that, the better. And that could be $100 a month. It could be $500 a month. It could be at 5,000, whatever that price range is for you. I think you see it so many times when people start losing revenue. The first thing they do is cut their marketing. Like, it's like counterintuitive, right? You don't cut your one thing that's bringing in business, but that's kind of where people default to. But the other thing is, if you're not in a place where you can do a lot of outreach or spend a lot of money on budgeting, how can you service the clients that you do have? How can you make sure that they're referring you? How can you make sure that they're having a top of the line experience, that they want to talk about you, talk about what you're doing, and share it with their friends? So if you can't spend the money to go acquire new clients, how can you improve, and how can you help the clients that you already do have, and make sure that they're having the best experience possible, so that all they want to do is refer you? So when you can't go out, look internally and make sure that your current clients are having like the best experience possible, and reach out, like do nurture them, send them emails, send them updates without spamming them, make sure that they remember you're there. So that would probably be where I'd start.
I love that. Yeah. Great advice, Bridget. This was such a great interview. Thank you so much for
Oh,
taking the
very much.
time to talk to
Absolutely.
us, and I just look forward to everything that you're doing, because I mean, you're great at marketing. Just your story, I'm always in awe by you. And you've been a speaker for some of the events that we've hosted.
Mhm.
You've gone to Vegas with us,
Yeah.
Arizona, and I can't wait to, just keep on cheering for you.
Thank you. And likewise, I love what you're doing, and I love the brand, and always happy to support and cheer you on, and be there to support however I can, because we need each other. And these conversations are a great reminder of that. And having a support system like Mindful Business Women is perfect. We all can use a little bit more mindfulness, especially as business women. So I appreciate you.
Thank you, Bridget. So yeah, ladies, if y'all have any more questions, make sure you comment below. Because I feel like we need a part two of this sequel.
You can always go deeper, right?
It was so good. Like, I feel like we needed this conversation. So comment below if you have any questions that you would like us to include for the next one. But Bridget, thank you again, and we'll stay in touch.
Sounds good. Thank you.